Russia has announced an intriguing initiative, accepting mandarins as a form of payment instead of cash. This unconventional arrangement stems from a barter agreement with Pakistan, allowing for the direct exchange of goods amidst ongoing economic challenges exacerbated by Western sanctions. Russia's decision to accept mandarins is a direct response to the economic pressures exerted by Western sanctions, which have severely restricted its access to traditional financial mechanisms. With international financial systems largely closed off, barter agreements provide a vital alternative for maintaining trade relationships. The current arrangement with Pakistan is emblematic of this broader trend, where countries opt for direct exchanges to circumvent the complexities of international banking. Actually, this is not an isolated instance. Various nations have turned to barter to navigate economic difficulties. For example, Venezuela and Iran have also implemented barter agreements to sustain trade despite sanctions. These practices highlight a significant shift in global trade dynamics as countries increasingly seek alternative methods of transaction. Since the onset of the Ukraine conflict in February 2022, the Russian economy has faced a barrage of challenges. Initially, the war led to a severe contraction, with businesses facing cash withdrawals and a plummeting ruble. However, through stringent monetary policies and capital controls, the economy has shown signs of stabilization in certain sectors, particularly those connected to military production. The concept of a war economy has taken root in Russia, with military expenditures skyrocketing as the Kremlin prepares for a protracted conflict. The proposed budget for next year indicates that defense spending will nearly double compared to previous years, a reflection of the ongoing commitment to military operations. Approximately 36.6 trillion rubles was allocated for government expenditure, with a significant portion directed towards military-related costs. Russia's military budget is a focal point in understanding the country's economic strategy. The proposed budget outlines defense spending plans, indicating a near doubling of military expenditure in 2025. This increase is primarily aimed at producing military equipment, covering wages for injured personnel, and providing compensation for the families of soldiers who have died in the conflict. For context, while Russia's military spending is substantial, it remains below the level seen during the Cold War, when defense budgets accounted for 12 to 17% of the Soviet GDP. Today, it is comparable to U.S. military expenditures in the 1980s. The military spending surge has resulted in growth in sectors related to defense, with industries such as transport and electronics reporting substantial increases in production. As industries directly linked to the military expand, this growth could lead to an imbalanced economy that struggles to meet the needs of the civilian sector, potentially resulting in higher unemployment and social unrest if military expenditures are curtailed. The war thus poses a dual threat. While it drives certain sectors of the economy, it simultaneously threatens overall economic stability and living standards for the average Russian. Since the onset of the war in Ukraine in February 2022, Russia has incurred substantial military costs and significant casualties. By September 2022, military expenditures were estimated to have reached around $40 billion, accounting for 84% of Russia's national defense spending for that year. Furthermore, Russia's military casualties have been staggering, with reports indicating that the total number of Russian casualties could reach around 500,000, including both deaths and injuries. These figures reflect the immense human and financial toll that the conflict has imposed on Russia, contributing to long-term economic challenges and a declining standard of living for many Russians. Despite the apparent growth in certain sectors, the Russian economy is under significant strain from sanctions and military costs. The freezing of the central bank's assets, estimated at approximately $300 billion, has limited Russia's ability to engage in international financial markets. This financial isolation has forced the Kremlin to rely heavily on its energy exports to generate revenue, leading to a precarious situation where the economy's stability is tied to volatile global oil prices. The impact of increased military spending is also felt in social sectors. While defense budgets are set to rise, spending on education and healthcare remains stagnant, indicating a prioritization of military needs over social welfare. The long-term sustainability of this approach is questionable, as the reliance on military expenditure could lead to a detrimental impact on living standards for ordinary Russians. The growing trend of barter agreements aligns with a larger pattern where nations seek to bypass traditional financial systems due to geopolitical tensions. Countries around the world are exploring similar alternative arrangements, as illustrated by China's trade relationships with various nations in Africa, where direct exchanges are increasingly common. These practices signify a strategic pivot in international trade, enabling countries to mitigate risks associated with currency fluctuations and sanctions. In Russia's case, the shift to bartering not only addresses immediate economic challenges, but also reflects an adaptive strategy to maintain trade and economic relations under adverse conditions. This approach could potentially inspire other countries facing similar economic constraints to explore alternative economic strategies. Moreover, Russia's pivot to barter highlights the potential for new trade relationships that transcend traditional currency-based transactions. As countries like Pakistan engage in barter agreements with Russia, this may pave the way for similar arrangements among other nations, fostering a new form of economic diplomacy that prioritizes mutual benefit over monetary transactions. This approach could be particularly advantageous for countries with limited access to hard currency, allowing them to continue trade flows without the need for stable foreign exchange. Observing how this trend unfolds could provide critical insights into the future of international trade, particularly as nations navigate the complexities of economic sanctions and the resulting shifts in global trade dynamics. Russia's acceptance of mandarins as payment demonstrates a pragmatic response to the economic difficulties posed by international sanctions and ongoing military expenditures. As the country navigates these challenges, the broader trend of bartering and alternative economic arrangements emerges as a viable strategy for nations seeking to maintain trade relationships and economic stability. This shift not only reflects the evolving dynamics of global economics in a time of increasing geopolitical tensions, but also highlights the lengths to which countries will go to preserve their economic interests amidst adversity.